People's interest in moving to Michigan has been growing over the past couple of years, and you guys have been leaving me some amazing comments on this channel. In fact, you got some great questions about what it's like to move here to Michigan, and I enjoy reading them. I enjoy answering all those. I'm still heavily involved in answering every single comment you guys leave down below, and I invite you to continue to do so because it gives me some great information about what you guys are looking for in terms of making your move here to Michigan. So I thought it'd be fun on today's video to kind of dive into the comments. After sitting so many Zoom calls and having discussions with you guys about moving here to Michigan and answering your burning questions, these questions come up very often. So what we're going to do today is pull some comments from down below and answer those with you guys here today. And my hope is that it'll help you make some informed decisions if you're considering making that move here to Michigan. And hey, if we're meeting here for the first time, my name's Eric Meldrum. I'm a realtor here with True Living Group. We make videos that are all things Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor to help you guys learn what it's like to live here. And that's exactly what we're doing in today's video, is we're answering some of the most common questions that come up from time and time again from conversations and the comments down below. So we're going to pluck some of those and answer those for you here today. But if you do like this content, give it a thumbs up. It lets YouTube know we're doing a great job. And consider subscribing so you're the first to learn about all things here living in Metro Detroit and Ann Arbor. And now let's get into the questions. All right, so the first question we have today is from Douglas, and excellent question, my man. He's asking, is buying a house in Michigan really cheaper than renting right now in 2024? Now, there's a lot to unpack with this, and I'm going to give you my short answer, but I'm also going to give you some context in terms of historically, what has always been the cheaper of the two options? How far apart have they been? So we can make an informed decision, without looking at the history. That's kind of like asking me right now today of Eric, like, should I buy Apple or Tesla stock? Don't look at the history, go yes or no. And well, I don't know. That would be really stupid financial advice if I just said yes or no blindly without looking at some history to determine, are we approaching a 52-week low? Are we approaching a 52-week high? We need some context here. So that's what I want to go over. And so short answer is right now, as of 2024, it is cheaper to rent here in Michigan than it is to buy a home. Okay. Now, I found this amazing chart to give you some context of the history of this, right? Has this always been the case? And this dates back to the 70s. Now, this is the whole entire comparison of buying versus renting for all of America, okay? But it applies to Michigan too. So I think this is just good information. Back in the 70s, buying a home was cheaper than renting. Okay, fast forward to the 80s, this became further apart. Buying a home became $500 more expensive on average than renting. And fast forward into the 90s, right, we started to see this come back together. And then in the housing bubble of 2006, we saw this separate again. Owning a home became another $500 on average more expensive than renting. Well, we all know what happened when the housing bubble came crashing down and home prices plummeted. So did interest rates. So right here, around 2009, 2010, homes were really cheap. So we started seeing home ownership become less expensive than renting for the first time since 1970. Now, fast forward to 2022, 2021, this is where home ownership has now exceeded rental rates, for the first time since 2009, 2010. This is the first time we've seen this big of a disparity between home ownership costs and rent. Okay, we're almost close to $800, $900 between buying a home and renting a home. Okay, and that's not dissimilar to what we're seeing here in Michigan as well. So I wanted to give you this context because at the end of the day, when you're making a move to another state, including here in Southeast Michigan, all right, the questions that we talk about and we ask are what's important to your lifestyle? Okay, where do you want to be? Location-wise, are you moving to Michigan for work? Are you moving to Michigan to be closer to family? Sometimes those things don't allow you to, ultimately find the most affordable place to live. Okay, the cost of living, for example, in Ann Arbor, Birmingham, Royal Oak, Novi, Northville, Plymouth, they are much higher than the average cost of a home here in Michigan. Reason being is because those places have become desirable places to live. They also have really good school systems. So naturally, most families want to be there. Most people want to be in those areas where they have great amenities, great downtown, great school systems. That's what people are looking for at the end of the day. So that demand is going to be higher. And if supply isn't there, well, prices are just going to keep going up. So, when you look at that, you got to bring context to the situation. You can't just be moving to Michigan and say, well, average cost of a home is $275. Yes, across the whole entire state of Michigan. If you want to live right in the smack dab middle of Michigan next to nothing, you could find that. All right. You could also be moving to Michigan and move to Ann Arbor, where the average cost is $525,000. Okay. Quite different than $275. So these questions are things that we go over. And this is the context to making sure that you're making the educated decisions, versus renting versus buying. It's all about location, right? School systems, what's the amenities? Where are you located? How far is your drive to work? Do you need to be close to the airport, right? The list goes on and on and on. So great question. As of right now, renting is cheaper, but you got to look at your situation and see if renting is something you even want to do. Because at the end of the day, renting is 100% interest, regardless of whether the interest rates are 3% right now or 7%, renting's always 100%. And while we're on this topic, ManBTM1 actually commented this, which I thought was a really good explanation, not just for me, but he said, I live in downtown Detroit for 16 years now. I love it. However, that $75,000 figure, and he's talking about a video I did where you could find homes in Detroit for $75K, is enormously misleading. Okay. 100%, right? It's just what I talked about the places that you may be considering moving to. You can find cheaper homes, but that's a median price. And when you take into consideration all the horrible neighborhoods, of which there are many, some of them you can buy homes for $20,000, $30,000, which brings this median price down. But frankly, no one would want to live there. In the nicer areas of Detroit, it's not cheap by any means. The downtown, midtown are expensive by Detroit standards, but very nice. Condos in Brush Park go anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million. Just look at the townhomes in Corktown, from $859,000 to $1 million. I couldn't believe it. My own Lafayette Park area averages about $400,000 to $500,000. But compared to other cities on the coast, I guess that's still cheap. The suburbs of Detroit, which go on forever, he's not wrong, have tons of different price points, some unbelievably expensive, some more reasonable. Do your homework. It's a wonderful metropolitan area to live in. Okay, thanks, BTM. I want to call him Man Bun. But this is really good. I mean, kind of a longer explanation. It depends on these pockets. Okay, it depends on the metro suburbs that you're looking at in terms of the city, right? The average cost, the amenities, all of those things could dictate, higher prices or a lower price. And our next question, which is super common, and if you're moving out of state to a new state, this is really top of mind. You want to make sure you're moving to a good area, but more so, Detroit, the Flint area, have gotten some pretty bad press and some pretty bad coverage for crime and violence over the years, and some of it being very legitimate, not sugarcoating anything here. Detroit and Flint have fallen on really hard times, and crime is existing in both those places. So, people moving to the area, the one question that I get a lot is, if I'm near like Ann Arbor, that's pretty close to Detroit, pretty close to Flint, how safe is that, right? How close do I need to be to Detroit to start seeing some of these effects of the quote unquote crime that's going on? Now, I can't answer this. Being a licensed real estate agent, I cannot tell you whether an area is safe or not, but I can point you to some resources to let you know what crime statistics exist in those areas. Now, most of the major cities around the Metro Detroit, Ann Arbor area, they have specific websites. So if you go to like the city of Ann Arbor or the city of Detroit or the city websites for a lot of these towns that you may be considering, there will be a link to crime statistics. They'll even have kind of a live crime map that you can go on and see what type of crime exists. Now, this is one thing that I think where bias comes into play. We all want to believe we live in the most safe area, and currently today where you live, I would encourage you to go look at the crime statistics on the city you live in, right? You might be surprised. So when looking at the current city versus the city that you're moving to, right, just compare those two, right? Crime exists everywhere. The things that I'm concerned about are violent crimes, right? What are those type of crimes that are occurring, and are they frequent? Is it a one-off scenario? Are there repeat offenses that are going on continuously? That would be an indication that this might be an unsafe area. Now, the one thing I always kind of judge, which I can tell you, is I have a family. I have two girls, Mila and Chloe, and my wife. As a husband, as a father, I'm always looking at, is the area we're going safe? Okay, we love to go to Ann Arbor. We love to go to Detroit. We love to go all around Metro Detroit and experience pretty much everything there is to do around here. And I'm always judging that from my point of view. Would I take my girls there? Would I live in those areas? And there's some areas where I'll tell you flat out, no, I won't take my family there. Like we're not going there. Or yeah, I feel completely safe. Now this particular question says, thank you for this video. Please, what about safety? How safe is Ann Arbor? Now, my wife and I moved back to Ann Arbor in 2015, and I just want to share this story with you because we were originally from Ann Arbor. You know, my wife grew up in the Flint area. I grew up in the east side of Detroit, and we had to make a decision when we were coming back to Michigan from California, where are we going to land? And the company I was working with to relocate back to Michigan was headquartered in Ann Arbor. There wasn't a requirement that I needed to be in Ann Arbor, but I made the decision that I actually would like to be in Ann Arbor. Even though it was a higher cost of living, let's do it. Let's move where we're working. Let's experience something new. Let's not just go back to, you know, the neighborhoods we grew up in. We wanted to do that. So we moved to Ann Arbor not knowing anything. And we've lived there for some time. And there wasn't one part of Ann Arbor where I personally would feel unsafe or not take my family to. All right. So hopefully that's context enough to let you know, from my point of view, I don't feel unsafe in Ann Arbor, but always look at the crime stats, determine if it's something that you would consider or not consider. All right, so this next question is from Jolie or Jolia, not sure which one it is, but she's asking, what are the schools like in Brighton? And I've been thinking about moving to Ann Arbor, but it might be better if we move right outside of it instead. We have a 6-year-old and wonder if the school systems there are good. Thanks. Well, great question. And as a parent that's moving to a new state with kids, school systems are really important. Being in a good school district is always a conversation and topic that gets brought up. Now, Jolie, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I can't tell you if Brighton is a good school district or a bad school district, but I can point you to some really amazing resources. And these resources are called greatschool.org and niche.com. Now, the thing I love about them, and I'll put some links down below, is the fact that parents like yourself, parents that have sent their kids to these schools, they can go comment on there. They can leave a review and they can rate it on a star basis. So you can go actually read comments from actual parents that have sent their kids to school there, good and bad. Okay, so they have to leave all the comments up. So that's greatschools.org and niche.com. Now, when it comes to Brighton, what I can say is it's a very highly rated school. And in this area of Ann Arbor, Brighton, Saline, Dexter, Northville, Plymouth, Heartland, Howell, those questions that you have about schools, it's like asking a group of athletes, right? Who's the best, right? When you have 5 all-star athletes on a roster and you're asking who's the best player, it's really hard to choose from. All of these schools are really highly rated. Saline, Dexter, again, Ann Arbor, Brighton, very highly rated. So you just got to really kind of dig in, do your homework. There's good school districts around. So that is the one thing I will say is you have options. And then it becomes, okay, we got a good basis for schools in the area. Where do we want to be? Right? What is the location? How close to work are we? How close are the other amenities? Where's the Costco? Where's the Target? Right? All these other sort of amenities start to play a factor into that, which could also, lead you to one city versus the next. And this next question is from Emmy, and she says, great video. Thanks, Emmy. What is it like in the dead of winter? Are people still out and about? I visited a few times, but don't know what it's like to be there at that time. Okay, so this is probably one of the most common questions, if not the most commented thing in the videos down below. Even Michiganders, are just ragging on the winter, and you can see some of the comments like, "Oh, winters are terrible there, and winters are awful. Who would want to move to Michigan?" And then you also have people that are living here in Michigan, and they'll be honest, like, "Hey, we've had very mild winters, over the past couple of years and past decade, and I've been saying this. I've said this year over year. I think they're getting milder and milder. I remember when I was a kid growing up, winters were brutal. Maybe it was because I was smaller and I felt like the snow was deeper, but like I just remember a lot more snow days, a lot more time outside building snowman, a lot more time like sledding, and there was snow packed on the ground pretty much all winter long. Nowadays, we're lucky if we get like 2 good snowfalls where we can take our kids sledding. I don't think we actually even got to go sledding last year at all. Like we built 1 snowman and the next day it was melted. And my girls were pointing out the window, like crying, like, oh, where'd the snow go? You know, it's like, it's really sad because my childhood was much different. So here in the lower part, like Southeast Michigan, we don't get hit as bad. On the west side of the state, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, along Lake Michigan, they get the snow drift. Okay, so they get the lake effect. The snow drifts, you know, off the lake right into those cities. So they get a lot more snow than we do here on the east side of the state. Northern Michigan also gets a lot more snow. So it really just depends on where you're at in Michigan. But if you're moving to Metro Detroit, the Ann Arbor, kind of Southeast Michigan area, look in the comments. I will say it's mild. Right, and that's a pretty fair statement from somebody who's lived here whole entire life that actually likes the snow. Right, snowboarded. I love going outside. You know, ice skating. Just can't do that, you know, anymore. So in terms of being in the dead of winter, you know, it does get cold. And that is the one thing. Without snow, without a lot of ice, it is still cold. So dress appropriately. You know, make sure you got a good winter jacket, good gloves, good boots. If you are going to be outside, those temperatures can get pretty frigid. So just prepare that way. All right, this next question is from Julia, and she says, when looking at a listing, is the basement included in square footage? Okay, pretty common question because we do have basements here in Michigan. She says, I see some homes that look small, but the square footage is huge, and some that are huge, but the square footage is a lot smaller. Makes me wonder how many of them are including the basement and how many are not. Also, how can you tell if it's included or if it's not included? All right, so great question, Julia. And if you're looking at any of the online search portals like Zillow, Realtor.com, Trulia, Homes.com, there's going to be 2 different fields. Okay, and Zillow is probably the worst at this. Just like their estimates, you know, we're wildly off. But they now report total square footage. Okay, and total square footage is giving you the square footage that is what we call above grade and below grade. Okay, so that's what the basement is really referring to as below grade. Okay, anything that's below the surface of the ground. In Michigan, we do not count that square footage in the total home square footage. Don't ask me why Zillow's doing it. It's absolutely ridiculous. I can't control them. They're a huge company, you know, but this is a common question that I even get on our listings is, hey, we see that it's listed at 3,000 square feet and it's a 1,500 square foot ranch. They're including the below square foot. So the one way you can kind of cut through all that is working with your real estate agent. We'll have the correct information. All the listings that we'll send you from our search portal, you know, will be accurate. The other way is if you're still wanting to look at, you know, some of those homes, which I totally fine to cheat on me on Zillow if you want to scroll through at night. I'm okay with that, right? You can cheat on me with Zillow at night. You're just going to want to look in the details, and there will be a section that says above grade square footage and below grade. Okay, so you want to look for the above grade. That will give you the actual square footage of the home. So hopefully that helps, Julia. All right, and this next question is from Raj Husama, and Raj is asking, are rents still going up in Ann Arbor? Is there any chance rents come down in the future? And this will bring this full circle. You know, when we first started this video, we were talking about what's more expensive, renting versus buying a home. And now the question is do we can think that rents are still going to go up, right? Is home ownership cost still going to go up? You know, our interest rate's going to stay the same? And the short answer of this is no. I don't think rents are going to continue to go up. I don't think home ownership is going to continue to go up. I personally think, you know, based on the information that I have been looking at and seeing with the housing reports and staying attuned with it, you know, every single quarter and every single month, I think that interest rates are going to come down. I think that we're going to start seeing a little bit more affordability in the average cost of a home. And here's what that really does. Okay, I want to walk you through this because, you know, just looking at rents alone and housing costs alone, you know, are not the only indication of what the housing market's doing. Okay, a lot of those commercial properties, apartment buildings, multifamily homes, those are on commercial loans. Okay, and then commercial loans have a balloon period. They're typically about a 5-year period where they then have this balloon or a variable rate that is going to come due. And most developers, are going to start looking at this, and we started to see early signs of this, is a lot of commercial spaces are now defaulting on their properties. Okay, so there's going to be an opportunity 2025, 2026 is what they're predicting. A lot of those loans are going to come due, because you got to remember, who was buying a lot of properties, when interest rates were 3% or even 2%, in 2021? A lot of investors. So 5 years from then is going to be 2025, 2026. All of these interest rates are going to become due, and they're going to jump to whatever the rate is right then. Even if it's currently 7, 8, 9%, I don't know what it's going to be. But a lot of developers and investors are just going to say, nope, we're not refinancing. We're handing the keys back to the bank. So we're going to see rents come down. I think they're going to stabilize and come down a little bit. That's also going to be really good for the housing market. Okay, so we're going to see interest rates probably follow suit with that. And at the end of the day, I could be wrong. That's just my prediction on what I'm seeing right now in the market. So I'll keep you updated on that. If anything changes, we will let you know. All right, so there you have it, you guys. We've covered a lot of questions today. These are some of the most interesting and some of the most common questions that I get, when having conversations with you guys who are thinking about moving to Michigan. On our Zoom calls, we go over a lot of this stuff. We talk about the cost of living. We talk about, the safety. We talk about school system. We talk about location. Again, there's only so much I can answer, but I'll at least point you in the right direction. And these comments, really help a lot of people. So if you have questions, drop those in the comments below. Remember, I answer all those personally, and I absolutely love doing it. When I moved back to Michigan, I had these same questions. My wife and I were moving to Ann Arbor. We were not from here. And we had these same questions like, is the place we're moving to safe? Is it affordable? What are the school systems like? Because we were considering, starting our family at that point. All of those things came into play. So if you have the question, the reality is somebody else probably does too. All right, so don't be afraid to drop that comment below, or better yet, reach out. Doesn't matter if you're moving in 1 year or 1 month from now, reach out to me and my team. We'd absolutely love to help, make that move to Michigan as smooth as possible for you. My contact information is down below. You can schedule a Zoom call with us. We'll sit through and answer your questions. I also have some questions for you, to help make your move as smooth as possible, and tons of information for you. So book that call, drop those comments, and more importantly, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to learn all things living in Michigan. And until next time, go check out the other videos we got about all things Michigan, and we'll catch you on the next one.